So welcome to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we're going over the GCSE Maths Past paper of November 2024 on the higher tier, paper 3, which is a calculator paper. Now before we get started working through this paper, a little reminder that I'll include a question breakdown in the description below so you can see what topic each question relates to, and I'll also include a link to the 162 Maths contents page which gives you easy access to all the video lessons which goes through all the GCSE topics in greater detail, along with topic tests, audits and other exam paper walkthroughs. So let's get started on question 1. So question 1 asks us to work out the reciprocal of 10 over 3. Now to work out the reciprocal of a fraction, all we need to do is simply flip that fraction. So what that then becomes is 3 over 10. Then the question asks us to write this as a decimal, giving us an answer of 0.3. Then moving on to question 2, it says the table shows information about the number of houses with solar panels in town. And for question 2a, it's asking us to complete the graph. So all we then need to do is to plot 2020 against 210, 2021 with 275, and 2022 at 350. So your graph should look something like this. Then for question B, it says use the graph to estimate the number of houses with solar panels in 2023, in which they would accept any answer within the given range of 360 to 500. So as long as your answer is between that region, then you are going to be absolutely fine. Then moving on to question 3, it says the building is the shape of a cylinder, has a diameter of 40 meters and a height of 55 meters. And for question 3, it says on a centimeter grid, draw a plan of the building. So using a scale of 1 centimeter equals 10 meters. So for this, all we need to do is draw a circle with a radius of 2 centimeters, and that is our plan view from the view from above. It then says on the centimeter grid, draw a front elevation of the building. So for this, we need to draw a rectangle with using the correct scale of 1 centimeter equals 10 meters. So we want a width of 4 centimeters and a height of 5.5 centimeters. So 5.5 squares going down. Moving on to question 4, it says to the nearest pound, Rosie has 12 pounds. She buys 6 drinks. Each drink costs £1.89. Shows that Rosie's definitely has enough money to buy 6 drinks. Well, to the nearest pound, then what we're looking at, the smallest amount that Rosie can have is going to be £11.50. So then if we then do 6 multiplied by 1.89, then we get a value of £11.34. So as £11.34 is smaller than £11.50, she has enough. Then moving on to question 5, it says the total cost of a taxi ride is calculated by adding a fixed charge of £4 and a charge of £2 per mile. Write down the formula to work out the total cost of the journey in miles. So it's going to be C equals 4 and then plus 2 lots of wherever the mile is. So it's going to be 2m. And again, with these particular questions, always make sure that the units are the same. So if one was in pence and one was in pounds, then make sure you just choose whether you want to work in pence or whether you want to work in pounds. In this particular case, we want to work with pounds. So here we can write our answer as 2m plus 4, or you can write 4 plus 2m, whichever you prefer. Moving on to question 6, it says 3 shops sell shirts, and we've got shop A, shop B and shop C. And the question is asking at which shop is it cheapest to buy 6 shirts, and it says show your work and support your answer. Now the fact that it says show your work and support your answer basically asking us to find the cost of buying 6 shirts at each of the shops. So for this, if I start with shop A, now if I'm buying 6 shirts from shop A, I'm going to buy 3 packs. So 3 packs, and that's going to come to a total cost of 2 times £19, which comes up to a total cost of £58. Then going to shop B, if I'm wanting 6 shirts, I'm going to buy 6 single shirts. So what I need to do first is find the price of one discounted price. So it's going to be £12.40 multiplied by 0.75 because I'm taking 25% off. So I'm only wanting to know what 75% of that price is. So that means that one shirt is going to come to a cost of £9.30. So £9.30 per shirt. So then if I multiply that by 6, I get a total value of £53.80. Actually, it's £55. Let me just edit that. And then working with shop C, it says buy 3 packs for £37.40, buy one get one free. So for this, I'm going to buy 1 pack at £37.40, and I'm going to buy the second pack at half that price. So half of 37.4 divided by 2 is £18.70. So then adding that total cost up, I get a total of £56.10. So which one out of these 3 prices is the cheapest? Well, it's going to be shop B. So all I then just need to write here is shop B. Then moving on to question 7, it says at a school there are 912 students. The ratio of students to teachers is 15.2 to 1. The number of students stays the same, but the number of teachers increases by 2. Work out the new ratio of students to teachers, giving our answer in the form of n to 1. So the first thing I need to do is work out how many teachers there are. So if 912 equals 15.2 parts, then one part is going to equal 912 divided by 15.2, and that gives me a total of 60 teachers. Then I add 2 teachers, so 60 plus 2 is 62. So then the new ratio is going to be 912 to 62 teachers, and then I want the ratio n to 1, so I need to divide this number by 62, and I need to divide this number by 62, giving me a total answer of 14.7 to 1. Now that number has been rounded, so again, depending on what your rounding is, I'm just going to say that this has been rounded to 1 decimal place. It then says on a school trip, 1 teacher is needed for every group of 10 or fewer students. 72 students want to go on a trip. Lexi tries to work out how many teachers are needed, and there's her working out what is wrong with her answer. Well, if there was 7 teachers, then the maximum number of students equals 7 times 10, which is 70. So there are not enough teachers. And you could also say something along the lines of that 8 teachers, if I can spell it, are going to be needed. So something along those lines would be absolutely fine as your answer. Moving on to question 8, says a triangle is drawn using the lines of y equals x, x equals minus 2 and y equals 4, in which drawing those lines we get a value of, this one here is going to be x equals minus 2, this line here is going to be y equals x, and the green line is y equals 4, and the triangle in question is this triangle here. And the question is asking us to work out the coordinates of the vertices of that triangle. So one vertex is at this point here, which is at minus 2, minus 2. Another vertex is at this point here, which is at 4, 4. And the last vertex is at minus 2, 4. So I just need to write minus 2, 4. And there you go. You can write those coordinates in any order as you wish. Then moving on to question 9, it says when x is divided by 2, a remainder is 1. When x is divided by 3, the remainder is 1. And when x is divided by 4, the remainder is 1. Work out two possible values of x. Now for this, what we need to do is, first of all, we need to find a common multiple of 2, 3, and 4. So if we multiply those numbers together, 2 times 3 times 4 is going to give me, well, common multiplier is going to be 12. So we're looking for any multiple of 12. And let me just write that down. So write any multiple of 12, and then because we want a remainder of 1, we then need to add 1. So a common example will be 12 plus 1, which is 13. So that's one possible answer. Another answer would be 24 plus 1, which gives us 25. So let me just write down the multiples of 12. 24, 36, 48, 60, and 72, etc. And if I just simply add 1 to each of these, then what I get is I get 13, 25, 37, 49, 61, 73, etc. So writing any of those two numbers will be fine. So let's just go for 13 and 25. Then moving on to question 19, it says a car will travel 60 miles. Draw a graph to show the average speed of the car for times taken between 1 hour and 6 hours. You may use the table to help you. So to work out this number here, all we need to do is just do 60 divided by 3. For this one, 60 divided by 4. And this one here, we need to do 60 divided by 5. So 60 divided by 3 is 20. 60 divided by 4 is 15. And 60 divided by 5 is 12. So all I then need to do is plot those coordinates, and because it is a time speed graph, we can then join those points up, but the question doesn't actually say for us to do that, and so all we then need to do is just simply plot those points. So here we've got 1 is at 60, 2 is at 30, 3 is at 20, 4 is at 15, which is there, 5 is at 12, and 6 is at 10. So what we should have is something that looks like this, and then all we then need to do is carefully just simply join those points up, which is going to be a bit of a nightmare on the computer. Oh, that's definitely gone a bit wayward there, and we just need to join those points up, in which we should have something that looks like that, but hopefully yours is a little bit neater than mine. Moving on to question 11, it says to factorise fully, let's just zoom in so we can see it all in its entirety. Factorise fully 12t plus 4t cubed. Now for this, all we need to do is we need to take out the common factor of 12t and the common factor of 4t cubed. So highest common factor of the numbers is 4, and both terms have got the letter t. And then what do we multiply 4t to get 12t? Well, that's going to be 3. And what do we multiply 4t to get 4t cubed? That's going to be t squared. Then moving on to question 12, it says the population of a country is now 67,200,000. The population is predicted to increase by 1% per year for 6 years and then decrease by 1.2% per year for 2 years. Work out predicted population of the country in 8 years from now, giving your answer to 3 significant figures. So for this is a compound interest question. So if we start by writing the original amount, then we want to increase by 1% for 6 years. So 1% plus 100% is 101. That as a decimal is 1.01, and we want to multiply that to the power of 6. Then we're decreasing by 1.2%. So 100% take away 1.2% is 90. it's going to give me 98.88. So that's going to be multiplied by 0.988 to the power of 2. And if I type that all into my calculator, then I get an answer of 693,632,406.54. And then what we then need to do is just round this number up to 3 significant figures. So that's going to be 696, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 zeros, and there is my final answer. Moving on to question 13, it says a bag contains £5 note, a £10 note, and a £20 note, and a £50 note. Armand picks 2 notes at random without replacement. Work out the probability that he has at least £30. So for this, what we need to do is we need to do a sample space diagram. So here we've got 5, 10, 20 and 50, and then if I do 5, 10, 20 and 50, now we can't get the same note twice, so I can blank out these cells here, and then if I add the amounts up, so here this is going to give me 15, 25, 55, 30, 60 and 70, and then this is going to give me 15, 25 and 55, 30 and 60 and then 70. And so what we're looking for is what's the probability of getting at least £30, which includes 30. So if I just circle those amounts, in which what's the probability of the circled ones? Well, that's going to give me an answer of 8 out of 12, in which I could leave my answer like this because we don't need to simplify fractions in probability unless it says, or we can simplify it as 2/3. Moving on to question 14, it says a test consists of 2 sections, A and B. 85% of people pass section A, 78% of people who pass section A also pass section B, and 36% of people who fail section A will also fail section B. And it says complete the tree diagram. So for this, what we have is then for section A pass is 0.85. For a section A fail, that's therefore going to be 0.15. A pass from section A is, and a pass on B is 0.78, so that means that this probability here is going to be 0.22. And from what's written in the question, that the probability of passing the second test if you've failed section A is going to be 0.64, giving us a fail one of section B as 0.36. So there is my completed tree diagram. It then says for part B, it says 40% of people who fail at least one section of the test take the test again. 5,000 people take the test. How many of these 5,000 people are expected to take the test again? So for this, what we need to do is first of all work out the probability of the number of people who fail at least one test. So here we can either have a fail and a fail and a pass, or a pass and a fail. So using the probabilities from the tree diagram, this is going to be 0.15 multiplied by 0.64, and that gives me an answer of 0.096. A fail and a pass is 0.85 multiplied by 0.22, which gives me 0.187. And a pass and a fail is 0.15 multiplied by 0.36, which gives me a probability of 0.054. Then all I then need to do is add those 3 probabilities together, which gives me 0.337. So that's the probability of failing at least one section. Now from this, I then need to work out how many of 5,000 people would do this. So if I multiply that probability by 5,000, I get my answer of 1,685. but then I know that 40% of people who fail this, so I need to multiply this number by 0.4, which gives me an answer of 674 in total. Moving on to question 15, it says match each equation to a statement to show what happens when the value of x is doubled. One has been done for you. So here what we need to look at now for these particular questions, what I always recommend students to do is to substitute numbers in. So for this, if x is doubled, so if x is doubled, then what we do is we swap x with 2x. So from this then, what this then becomes is 1 over 2x squared, which is going to equal 1 over 4x squared. So this one has been divided by 4, which is correct. Then for this one here, this is going to be y equals 8 lots of 2x, which is going to equal 16x. So this one has been multiplied by 2 in comparison to the original one, so that's going to be doubled. Then for this one here, that's going to be 10 over 2x, which again we're looking at halving our value of this expression, so this is going to be this one here. And then finally we've got y equals 3 lots of 2x squared, which is going to equal y lots of 3 times 4x squared. So that's then going to be multiplied by 4. So this one is going to be joining that one there. Moving on to question 16, it says rearrange y equals root x over 2 plus 1 to make x the subject. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of the square root. So we square it, in which we end up with this. Then we take away the 1. And then we need to multiply everything by 2. So it's going to be 2 lots of y squared minus 1 equals x. So you can either leave your answer like this, or you can expand the brackets, in which we get 2y squared minus 2. So any of these variations would be absolutely fine for your answer. Moving on to question 17, it says a stone falls vertically from 300 meters from the ground. The stone falls d meters in t seconds. D is directly proportional to the square of t, and the stone falls 20 meters in the first 2 seconds. Work out the total time for the stone to reach the ground. So looking at this particular question here, then what we know is it's the direct proportion question. So d is directly proportional to t squared. So to find the formula, what we need to do is first of all swap the proportion symbol for equals k, and we've got t squared, and then I need to use this information to find k. So here I know that when d equals 20, t equals 2, so I've got 20 equals k times 2 squared, so therefore k equals 5. So from this and using this, I then get my formula of d equals 5t squared. Now from this, what I then need to do is I then need to use the information which is given to me in the question, which is to find the time when d is 30. So when d equals 300 rather not 30, we get 300 equals 5t squared. So taking the 5 over to the side by dividing by 5, we get 60 equals t squared. So t equals the square root of 60. Now because we can't have negative time, typically we would write plus or minus root 60, but this negative value of t isn't possible. So we're just looking for the positive value of t. So t equals 7.75 seconds. Then moving on to question 18, it says the table shows information about the height of 40 plants, and the question is asking us to draw a histogram to represent the heights. So for this, what we need to do is we need to calculate the frequency density, and how we do that is do the frequency divided by the class width. Now the class width is the upper bound, take away the lower bound. So for the first one it's 5, then it's 10, then it's 10, and then it's 25. So if I divide the second column by the number in the third column, then I get my frequency density value. So for the first one, it's going to be 1.2. Second one is 1.5. The third one is 0.9, and the fourth one is 0.4. And then to draw my histogram, what I'm doing is I'm going to plot this against these values here. And so what my histogram should look like, and again I just need to then do an appropriate scale on the axes. So I'm going to go up, to make life a little bit easier, I'm going to go up in 0.2s. So I'm going to go 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1, 1.2, 1.4 and 1.6. And then all that's left for me to then do is draw the bars, in which your histogram should look something like that. Moving on to question 19, it says use the sine rule to work out the value of x. So for this, what we need to do is to label our diagram. So if I just call this A, this will be little a, and this is going to be angle B, and this is going to be little b. Now the sine rule is x over sine A equals B over sine B. So substituting those numbers in, I get x over sine and 35 equals 54 over sine 117. Then making x a subject, I get x equals 54 over sine 117 multiplied by sine 35. And if I type that all into my calculator, then I get an x value of 34.76195373, and then it's just a case of me rounding my answer up, so I'm going to round it to 34.8, and that's going to be centimeters, and that's to one decimal place. I don't know where that line's come from, so let me just get rid of it, and that's to 1 dp. Moving on to question 20, it says factorise fully. So for this, we need to look at, it's a quadratic, so we're looking at double brackets. Now again, you can use any which way you want to do this. You can use the magic number way, or you can do it by inspection, particularly as the coefficient of x squared is a prime number. And so all we then need to do is just write down our two missing values, in which you should have the brackets of 3x plus 5 and x plus 6. Now moving on to question 21, it says a bag contains 25 discs, 11 are red, 9 are blue, 5 are yellow. Ashley picks 3 discs at random without replacement. Ashley's first disc is a red. Work out the probability that all 3 discs are different colours. So the fact that Ashley has picked the first disc as being red means that the total number of discs is going to be equal to 24 discs, in which 10 are red, 9 are blue and 5 are yellow. Now the question is asking us to work out the probability of getting a blue and a yellow, or yellow and a blue. Now in terms of the first situation, the probability of getting a blue and a yellow is going to be, the probability of getting the first one is blue, which is 9 out of 24, multiplied, and a yellow, in which there's 5 out of 23 discs. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 45 over, and that's going to be 24 times 23, which gives me 552. Then if I then work out the probability of yellow and blue, well, that's going to be 5 over 24 multiplied by 9 over 23, which gives me the exact same fraction of 45 over 552. So all I then need to do is just simply add those two fractions together, in which I get 90 over 552, which I can leave as a fraction. I can simplify that fraction, in which it simplifies to give me 15 over 92, or I can write it as a decimal, which is 0.16 3 recurring. So any of those would be absolutely fine for your answer. Moving on to question 22, it says the metal used to make a sphere costs £4,320. The metal costs £3.60 per gram. Each cubic centimetre of metal has a mass of 17.3 grams. Work out the radius of the sphere. So for this particular question, what we need to do first is we need to work out how many grams there are. So that's going to be 4,320 divided by £3.60, and that comes up to a total of 1,200 grams. Now from this, what we then need to do is work out what the volume is. So the volume of the sphere is going to be 1,200 divided by 17.3, and that comes up to a total of 69.36416. Now from this, what we then know is that this is going to be equal to the volume of the sphere. Which, if I've still got that value on the calculator, then this is what I should have. Now what I need to do is I need to try and work out what R is. So first thing I'm going to do to this number is I'm going to multiply this number by 3. Then I'm going to divide by 4. Then I'm going to divide by pi. And then I'm going to cube root the answer. Now if I apply all of the things I've written in green in that order to the number of 69.36413, then what I should end up with is, and so times 3 divided by 4 divided by pi, cube root the answer, in which I should end up with a number of 2.548876801. Now your answer, depending on your rounding, may be something slightly different, but as long as you showed your full working out, I'm going to round this number up to 2.5 to 1 decimal place. But again, there will be a margin of error, so as long as your answer is close enough and you've worked out the volume of sphere, which worked out to be 69.3 something, then, and applying everything that I've done in green, should give you the correct answer and full marks. Moving on to question 23, it says the distance of a particle from a point is d meters after t seconds, where d equals a times b to the power of t, where a and b are constants. And the question is asking us to find the value of a and b. So if I just zoom out just so we can see all of this in all its entirety, then what we should find is that the value of a is the initial value. So I don't know what's happened there. Let me just correct that. So this value here is my value of a. And that is when b equals 0. So for this, my value of a is going to be what looks to be around about 3. So a equals 3. Then what I then need to do is, if I pick a particular point, so let's go for this point here. Now this point here, t equals 2 and d equals 12. So if I then substitute that into this particular formula, so I've got 12 equals, well, I know that a is 3 multiplied by b to the power of 2. Then what I end up with is take the 3 over to the other side by dividing by 3, so I get 12 equals b squared, or 12 over 3 equals b squared. So that's going to be 4 equals b squared. So b is going to equal the square root of 4 plus or minus. So b equals plus or minus 2. Now for this particular question, because we've got an increasing term, that b must be positive. So b equals 2. And there we go. But it's still important for us to write that b could equal a negative number. So here we're just writing that a equals 3 and b equals 2. Moving on to question 24, which is our last question. It says the curve has the equation of y equals x squared plus 4x minus 4, and a straight line has the equation of y equals 3x minus 2, and the question is asking us to work out the 2 points of intersection of the curve. Now whenever you see the word intersection, you want to think simultaneous equations. So what we need to do is substitute one equation into the other. Now because they both equal y, I can make the two equations equal to each other. So what I end up with is something that looks like this. Then if I take all of this over to the side, because it's starting to look like a quadratic, we get x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. Now from this we can then solve this for x, in which I'm going to use factorization because it factorizes. So I get x minus 1, x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals 1 or minus 2. Now using those values, I can then work out what the respective y values are going to be. So here, from this, when x equals 1, y is going to equal, if I use this equation here, I get 3 lots of 1 minus 2. So y is going to equal 1. And when x equals negative 2, then y is going to equal 3 lots of minus 2 minus 2, which equals negative 8. So my two coordinates are going to be 1 1 and minus 2 minus 8, and there we go.